After every story, I like to give a shout out to one of my subscribers, and I hope you stick around so that you can find out who it is. It could be you. I have a very good story for you, so don't go nowhere. Today's story is about a man called Otto, or Otto Disappears in full. His real name is Oluchi, and he was a self-acclaimed former secretary of witches in Ungwa in southeastern Nigeria, specifically Abia state. Very little is known about this man or his family or background. He just came out of nowhere and called himself a pastor and said that his mission is to get rid of the witches and wizards in the community, that he used to be in charge of them, so he knows them and there's no one who can do that job better than him. Many people do not know him that well. We would say he's an elusive person, and of course, but he sounded very believable and people bought his story. So this man called Otto, we call him Otto. Meanwhile, Otto Disappears means a bit that cannot eat up a steal. That's just me roughly translating it. So Otto's witch cleansing activities swept through Ngwa community from 2006 to 2007. And he went from one community to the other, naming and pointing at people he said were witches. And as usual, jungle justice took place. People never investigated. People never asked him questions. He sounded so convincing, and they bought his story, and they started lynching and killing people, especially older people that they believed were witches in the community. He claimed to know all of them. He said he was once like them, that now he saw the light, he now believes in God, and therefore he wants to expose them before they continue to wreak more havoc in the society. So he also told Ungwa people specifically that there are lots of witches in their community, that there are just so many of them that he cannot point them all out at once, but he's going to visit their villages one after the other and he will bring them out for them. So he was going around calling them out, and this is what he would do. He would come to a community, he would grab a mic, because he usually have a microphone so that he can address the crowd, because whenever he visits there's a crowd around him. They usually put him in a village square where people can watch him, listen to him. There's a lot of space in there. So he would grab a mic and then he would greet them in a certain way that makes the witches feel like he's communicating to them in a language that nobody understands. He will pick up a mic and guess out a name, basically pick out a name from a hat and say, I greet so and so in so and so village. And if that name rings a bell, the youth would only just rush to the person's house, drag them out, beat them up and kill them. So the next thing that would happen is that they would go into the person's house and bring out all sorts of stuff that is basically like an evidence of witchcraft. Things like a shrine, a pot, something in a bottle, photographs, blood, dead animals in a box, just about anything you find in the witch's corner. So here's a case of something that happened in a village sometime in 2006. So Otto went to a village called Asamoka in Osisiomangwa, and as usual, a crowd followed him behind until he got to the village center. You can just picture when there's an event in a community, people make a circle, they form a circle, and then you have this man sitting right in the middle, not in the middle, but just a little bit away from the crowd, addressing them. There's a microphone ready for him to speak so that he can address everyone. And I'm not just, people come from far away. I have witnessed this man speak. So this is not even me just telling you any story. I have been there, you understand? So I had to travel from my own side of town to go and witness what this man is doing. It's like you're going to this live concert, because everyone is talking about it. The news spread so fast. There was a schedule. Otto had a schedule of places he was going to be at certain part of time of the day and week. So if you are available, you could take a bike or take a bus, you and your friends, you make it a trip, you go down to the village, you lodge in a hotel, you wait for him, you hear things he had to say. You just want to witness what is going on. Like, you want to see the whole drama unfold. That was how much we enjoyed that kind of story. We wanted to see everything. And of course, I have always been curious. So I I decided to go there and see things for myself. I will never forget what I saw, but I'm going to tell you my own experience after this story. So stick with me. So when, back to the stage where Otto was standing, the youths waited on standby to drag out whomever he was going to call out. And at that moment, everyone was so anxious. Everyone was basically looking at each other like, yo, you think it could be this person? I have always suspected that person. Maybe it's just the person as usual. He greeted two witches from Asamoka in Osisioma as usual. He grabbed the mic and then he announced their names. And one of the people he called managed to escape. I don't know how he did, but by the time the mob got to his house, he vanished. He was nowhere to be found. So they took the other guy, they beat him so hard, dragged him back to the village square, stripped him naked, and this is a man in his, I would say, around 60s. And then they started dropping hot plastic on his body. I don't know if you've ever seen, they will melt a bottle, and then when the liquid they'll be dropping it on their skin, and that must be very painful. So they tied him with palm leaves and started flogging him, as he walked back to the village square. So they beat this man so much, and everyone believed Otto that he had just exposed the wizard. And the worst part of it is that the man confessed. He confessed to doing this and doing that, and harming these people, killing that people, burying charms here, burying charms here. We can't tell if this man was actually confessing to a crime or if he was just, saying something out of pain that he was feeling at that time. So when the guys, were satisfied with his confession, the man also mentioned that he nailed their luck and destiny on some trees in the village. There were about 3 trees he pointed out, and that infuriated them the more. Like, who the heck is this man? Why would you do such a thing to young people? Could this be the reason why we're not progressing? Is this the reason why people cannot buy houses, cannot buy cars? Young men are languishing away. People were just looking for who to blame. So this man fit the target. And because he confessed and said, yes, I took your luck, I took your destiny, then, it fit perfectly that he was the one behind all their problems. So after the confession, the villagers cut down the trees that the man pointed out, and then hoping that it will end all the problems in the community. After the tree fell, the villagers then invited all the members to come and take an oath. They were to swear an oath that none of them had ever wished bad on Otto, because then Otto hinted that these people did not want me to come here. It was out of extra powers that forced me to come here and expose them. So this youth had to put them in a place like, yo, did you people ever stop Otto from coming here? I need you guys to swear an oath. You must swear an oath that you never try to stop him. You would ask, it doesn't even make sense. What does it matter? It doesn't matter anymore. Otto is here already. He has already pointed out the witches. Why not just let them go or kill them? But no, they wanted to make sure that the witches and wizards did not try to stop him before he came. It kind of created this circle of jealousy that some other part of town felt like, why is Otto going to these places and he's not coming to our place? Is there something wrong with our community? How come he likes to go to some places? Could it be that there are some people preventing him from coming to our community? This must be very bad. There might be so many strong witches in this community that do not want our progress. They do not want to let go of evil, and we must fish them out by force. So then what they were doing is they will go to some of the youths in the community. They will go and say that they spoke to Otto, and Otto mentioned certain names. Otto gave them a list. Then they will come to their village and start torturing some of the old men and women in the community, calling them witches and wizards, flogging them, stripping them naked, setting some of them on fire, and of course burning down their houses, all because Otto told them. Back to the story of taking the oath. So when these guys cut down the tree, now it was time to take an oath, to prove that they did not try to stop Otto from coming. They brought out a white basin, poured water into it, and then put a copy of the Bible inside the basin. So they believed that anybody who took the oath and was preventing Otto from visiting the village would die instantly. All the villagers were, panicking. Everybody wanted to, see the end of this whole drama. But people were also skeptical, like, yo, what if you were doing it and you did not know? Because there are so many levels of witchcraft here, So the basin was carried around so that everybody in that crowd were to touch it with their finger and then touch their forehead. So they would dip it in the water and then touch their forehead, while stating that they were never, they never wished Otto not to come from their village, that they never had any plans to stop Otto from visiting their village. All the villagers but 2 men refused to take the oath. So those who refused to swear said it was against their religion, that they are Christians and Christians don't swear oaths. But the village members insisted that you cannot single yourself, you can't wiggle yourself that easily, you can't walk away, you have to swear, you have to do what others are doing. We don't care what your religion is. So they kept persuading them, pressuring them, but the guys insisted that they would never do it. So the more they refused to do it, the more they created this tension that, oh, maybe you guys are guilty, that's why you don't want to do it. Because then, if you're not guilty, why couldn't you just take the damn oath? After long and stressful persuasion, and these men insisted that they would never swear to the oath, the youth got angry and attacked them, started beating them, injured them. One of them died. He beat them so bad. So the people who attacked them, were so scared that they left the village, thinking that the police were coming to arrest them, because they went overboard in attacking people. However, the matter was never reported to the police, and that's one of the most weirdest part of it. They never reported it to the police. One of those who was injured said that that his own pastor advised him to not to take the matter to the police, that God will punish them in his own way, that there's no need fighting these people, that these are traditional people, they don't understand, that only God knows why they did what they did, that he should forgive them. So one of them, he listened to his pastor and he agreed to let things go. So this incident happened over 14 years ago, but people are still on the hush-hush about it. A lot of people still don't understand what happened, what this whole Otto saga is. Where did he come from? Who made him the speaker of the people, or who gave him such authority to start condemning people with no evidence? And the police were never at the scene where he was calling people out. The people in these communities that he visited are still reluctant to discuss this incident. People who are related to the victims, they don't want to speak about it because they are scared that people, some villagers might still come back and attack them. So it just makes you wonder, what was all that about? Like, this man doesn't even have any picture on the internet. We don't know who he is. We don't even know what he does for a living. This thing happened back in 2006, 2007, and today we don't know what he's doing with his life anymore. This is very common across the region. We have people hunting witches, people, they feel like they capitalize on the frustration, poverty, despair, and all kinds of things affecting them. So anybody who comes out and say he or she is a witch or mistakenly confesses to something, you are the easy target. They're going to kill you right there because they believe that you are the problem of the country. They are always looking for scapegoats. Now, these people designated as evil or witches are blamed for lack of progress in the community. They are accused of magically taking away stars of others, stealing destinies, naming people's future husbands and wives in the bottle and stuff like that. So those who have suffered witch persecution or survived attacks by lynching mobs largely resign to their fate. Some of them just abandon the community, they run away, or maybe they have kids who can take care of them. They just don't want to, look back anymore. It's a very shameful and scary experience. So here's my own experience that I witnessed. Otto is not a mystery. He actually existed. I saw and I had things. So I went to a village in Osisiomangwa. I had a friend who's from that area, and as usual, the story was circulated that Otto was coming to her village, that I should come and witness it for myself. I said, hell yeah, I want to go see what's going on. I want to see. I've heard so much about this man. He was trending like a celebrity, but then there are no photographs of him. But I wanted to see for myself, what the whole buzz was about. And people actually said that he was calling out real witches and wizards. So that evening, my friends and I, we hopped in the car. We actually rented a taxi, and we headed down to the village. I can't remember the particular village. I have only been there once, but I know it was in Osisioma. So when we got there, before we even arrived at the town where the whole event was going on, we kept seeing people running, and then there are bikes zooming back and forth from, we were going, and these bikes were like going the opposite direction. And I kept asking my friend, like, what's going on? Like, are people running? Is there something that, have we missed the event? And she said, no one knew what was going on. Eventually, we got so anxious, we had to stop one of the guys, zooming past us. We were like, what's going on? He said, oh, Otu just mentioned somebody, and his house is on the other direction, so they are rushing over there to go and see things for themselves. We're like, what the heck? I thought this man was supposed to start, an hour before we arrived, an hour later. Well, I don't think he'd already started. So we didn't know whether to keep going or to follow them to go see who he mentioned. So we decided to get to this town. We wanted to, see him and then find out whomever he has mentioned, and wait there for them to bring those people back. So we got to the town, and then I noticed he was a very tall guy. I wouldn't say too tall, but he was decently tall. He was a little bit dark, not too heavy. And of course, that was the first time I saw him holding a microphone. He was addressing the crowd, and he had his Bible in his hand. So he kept repeating those names. And then people, in each time he said, there's this crowd roaring like, oh my God. And then shortly, I saw a man without a shirt on. He looked so rough, like he's been tortured. They put him on the bike. So one of the youths in the community was holding a knife. And then he had this old man sitting between the bike rider, and the bike rider was in the front, and this man was sitting in the middle, and he was sitting at the back, more like guarding him with a machete. So they zoomed into the crowd, and I was watching. They pulled the bike man came down, and the old man staggered down. He had only his short nigger on his waist. They kicked him right in the center, and he sat down. They said they have just come from his house. So apparently, when we were going there, he was one of the men that they mentioned that they were going to his house to go and pick up. So they had been beating him all the way from his house till he got to the square. So they dropped him there. The old man, lay on the floor, very helpless, very, very sick. He was just there. And then Utu did not say anything. He just stood there and watched. And then he said, let him confess. The youth were like, they started barraging this man. They started harassing. So the youth started attacking this man. So the youth started beating this man all over again. They had some wood that they were hitting him on his back, asking him to confess, asking him to mention things, to say, to speak, tell them how he's been a wizard in the community, oppressing people, to mention names of people he has killed, to point out where he has nailed people's destinies. And then the man was like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. They hit him. Each time he said something that did not sound good to them, they would slap him on it. So they kept kicking and hitting him until he finally, started confessing that he was responsible for so many things, that he helps people, he separates people's marriage, that he can bond people together, that he has tied a lot of young men's destinies somewhere. Just so many things that didn't even make sense. But of course, I was there to witness the whole thing. After he was done confessing to a lot of things, we had to go to his house because there were rumors in the crowd like, oh, they found things in his house. They needed to go to his house before they burn it down. So we asked our rider again to take us to his house to go and see what they brought out, just to be sure that they got the right guy. So when we got there were so many things on the floor. I didn't even want to touch them. They were just so creepy. I feel like if you get close to them, you might just attract something dangerous to yourself. There was a picture. I'll never leave. This memory will never leave me, because there was a picture of a young man in a bottle, in a green Sprite bottle. And he was just sitting there. And there are these wood carvings that look like humans. And they were like bounded together. And there's blood on some of them. And there's like needles stuck in some of these tiny dolls. And there's a broken mirror. There's someone's graduation certificate on the floor. There's a bucket full of dark liquid. There were just so many things. I could not take it anymore. It was repulsive. It was scary. How could someone have something like this in his house? So it was later that people were saying that this man is a native doctor, that he does all kinds of charms for people. but they do not know that he was the one tying their destiny, of course, and that's usually what gets people more upset. But they are hoping that now that he's been arrested, now that the youths are dealing with him, now that they've destroyed his workplace, his voodoo things and all that, that peace will restore in the village. But then I also heard that Otto gave an order to burn down his house. So the youths were so angry. Even after bringing out all these things from this man's house, they felt like if they did not burn down the house, something is still gonna, happen to them. So they gassed the house and burnt it to the ground. This is what Otto did in Abia State between 2006 and 2007. The stories are too many. Newspapers printed some. We hear about them in the radio. And of course, the news spread in places. People were talking about it. And just like that, the man, he went away, gone with the wind. No one knew where he went to. No one knew what's up with his life today. Just like that, the police never prosecuted anyone for all these killings and accusations, or they never investigated anything. And just like that. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. The next person I'm going to give a shout out to is Kingsley M. Thank you, man, for all your support. I see you. I see your comments and all that. Thank you so much. So guys, if you're new to my channel, please hit the subscribe button so that you can get more stories from me. I tell all kinds of stories, both from Nigeria and overseas. And also, if you're already a subscriber, thank you for coming back, and please hit the like button. Thank you so much for watching, and have yourself a good day.